I want to start by welcoming everyone, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Unidentified Broadcast. I'm your host, Rodkiv, and I'm thrilled, not so thrilled, but to have you joining us today. Before we delve into our main topic, I wanted to take a moment to uplift and inspire the incredible people of Maui and Lahaina. This goes out to you, my people. I hope everything gets better for you. In times of adversity, it's more important than ever to come together as a community. Let's remember the strength and resilience that resides within each and every one of us. Together, we can overcome any challenges that come our way and emerge even stronger than before. Now let's address the urgent matter that requires the collective efforts of the amazing community. As shocking as it may sound, there are 2,000 children missing on our beloved island of Maui. It is a heartbreaking situation, and we cannot rely on anyone else to lead the search and rescue efforts. But let me tell you something. I did some research on the island, and I've never been there personally, but I came to a discovery for myself, I would say. And I urge each and every one of you to become part of a dedicated search and rescue team. We believe that the Hana lava caves may hold vital clues regarding the whereabouts of these missing children. With over 100 entrances and exits, it's possible that these caves may have been used to hide or transport them during the chaos. Now, in this video, towards the end of it, it shows how at the end of this tunnel, these buses and cars are waiting for these tourists here on the video. And just like that, there could be buses, any means of transportation, waiting for these kids, as a matter of fact, to take them abroad. God forbid, they're off the island and taken elsewhere, as human trafficking is at its largest. We just hope for the best. Remember, this task requires absolute trust within our community, and encourage you to refrain from involving government officials. I emphasize strongly on that. Refrain from involving government officials. In this particular endeavor, let's keep it among ourselves and work tirelessly to uncover the truth and bring these kids home. I want to give you a message of encouragement to the people of Maui once more. In the face of tragedy, it is crucial to maintain hope and unity. Together we will rise above the obstacle and rebuild our beautiful island stronger than ever before. I know that this is hard for everyone. I know that these are times of just anxiety. It's overwhelming for everyone whose children are missing, family members, homes, all of the above. But please, I encourage you and I urge you to go to the Hana lava caves. These caves may have been put to use for the trafficking of these kids, if that's what it led to. Now, I'm gonna show you, aside from this video, I'm gonna show you a small clip of Walmart buildings. They're run by FEMA, and I mean, these are concentration camps for kids being held captive in these Walmart, unoccupied buildings. But they're not unoccupied. They're used for trafficking these kids. But like I said, I urge you to please go and just be a part of this and take it upon yourselves to go search these caves if it's possible and there's a way through them. If there's government officials blocking entry to these tunnels, take a wild guess why. I mean, self-explanatory. But as we see here, the tourists are exiting the cave now. One of the last ones walking out as we speak, and here we go. This is what I mean by any bus, any means of transportation can be waiting for your kids for transportation somewhere else. As we can see, there are the vehicles, and I mean, what else can I say? Be strong, and everything will work out for the best. Up next, I'm gonna put a small clip on a video that is heartbreaking to know that these places exist, but these are Walmart locations that are not used, but are used as concentration camps for kids, which is disturbing to know that the government is allowing any of this to happen. Heartbreaking in all of its matter, and I'm lost for words, to be honest. But let me leave you with the video so you can take a look at what
trafficking story that we've been covering here extensively on the show. Illegal immigrant children being kept in concentration camps in America. This is a phrase that I never thought would come out of my mouth. That's right. These children with no parents, not allowed to go outside. All of this happening while the Biden administration, the Governor Greg Abbott administration, ignoring the situation. Our next guest spoke to a whistleblower at a secret child concentration camp facility in Texas and joins us now. Welcome back to journalist Michael Yon and Ann Vandersteel, host of Right Now with Ann Vandersteel. And Ann, welcome to the show for the first time. Good to see both of you.
Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you, Clayton. The things that we've been seeing are over the top. For instance, 2 nights ago, Ann and I and the rest of our team were out with a whistleblower who used to work in these facilities, and he also served as an escort. So they actually take these children and fly them around the United States, such as to New York and many to Florida. And often, interestingly, many of the escorts are 19, 20, 21 years old, and they're staying with children up to 5, even 10 children. When it's 5 children, it's often just one escort, like a young man with teenage girls or boys, that sort of thing. And sometimes they stay overnight in hotels together when their flights are delayed or whatever. And often they're delivering these to home, these children of mixed race. So it's not like somebody, it's like, it'll be boys and girls sometimes from different countries that are being delivered to affluent homes in places like Florida. And so this is very interesting. We're all over this. We're looking into it deeply. In fact, we're going to head to Florida soon and look more deeply into it. But Ann saw a lot of things that I didn't see as well.
The part that was so...
Yeah, tell me what you saw. Well, you've been over the past few days at a Walmart facility speaking with these whistleblowers. We have images here and videos that you guys have sent. There's sort of a checkpoint. Just tell me what you saw, Ann.
Well, what's so frankly deeply disturbing on all of this is the fact that you have corporations like Walmart that are now turning their closed facilities. Remember, we lost a lot of businesses during COVID, and most of the ones that survived were the Walmarts and the Home Depots. But in fact, Walmarts did close all over the country, and they're being rehabbed into these facilities that house up to 5,000 migrant children in one building. So you can imagine the conditions where they're not even allowed outside, and you have the parking lot cordoned off right there in the open where other businesses and retail pads are still open, and people know what's going on in the community. They're aware that they're holding all these migrant children. You have security that when you pull up and you pull out cameras, walkie-talkies and security guards appear everywhere and start to surround you to make sure you're not videotaping these facilities, which are right out in the open. Southwest Key Programs is one of the non-governmental organizations that I've been tracking for about 3 years now. And they are known to not only be paid publicly by the government hundreds of millions of dollars per year, but they're also taking that money and financing the coyote cartels to smuggle these children in. And they prefer the younger the better because they get more money per child the younger the child is. They're also funding the lobbyists, which are then, of course, greasing the politicians to encourage the policies and laws
So as of recent,
that
there
are
was a
delivering the
community
open
meeting
border
where
nightmare that we are witnessing today. It's changing the face of our country. It's burdening the taxpayer. Crime is through the roof. And frankly, Governor Abbott shut the border during COVID, Clayton. He could shut the border right now. Instead, he's visiting with the mayor of McAllen, Texas, having big, summits down here in McAllen, Texas, congratulating McAllen for their tax revenue growth in the retail sector, and they're encouraging paving over agriculture so that they can expand the international bridge into Mexico and bring in the fruits and vegetables from Mexico over and above the Made in USA label. So all of this World Economic Forum agenda is playing out right here on the southern border, and Texas is going to lose their electoral college if this progression changes. But again, frankly, it's at the expense of the children, which is the real profit center for these NGOs and, frankly, for the federal government becoming the largest human trafficking purveyors in the world.
I know when we say that, right, we say the United States government is the largest purveyor of human trafficking in the world. We certainly know the accusations leveled against the CIA as being actively involved in this. And here you have these facilities host 5,000 children in old Walmarts with guards and guard gates. I'm looking at this Welcome to the South Key program's guard gate that when you pull up, there watching you. This is unbelievable that this is happening in America. What is the response from the Biden administration when you bring this to, Secretary Mayorkas or any other member of the Biden administration?
I'm glad you brought up Secretary Mayorkas, Clayton, because a team of researchers has done a deep dive, led by an attorney, Todd Callender, who's actually got a case in front of the 10th Circuit, taking it to the Supreme Court, questioning the validity of these vaccines and what it does to your sovereignty based on the 13th Amendment. Setting that aside, this team has uncovered the fact that Secretary Mayorkas and every member of the Biden administration, including Kamala Harris, including federal judges, including U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves, all have deficient, defective, or non-existent oaths of office on file. What do I mean by that? When you swear to uphold and defend the Constitution, you have to do two-part process. One is 5 U.S.C. 3331, where you put your hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and swear to uphold the Constitution. And part two is 5 U.S.C. 3332, where it must be presented in a written format, notarized, and kept on file within 30 days of taking public office. These people are deficient, defective, or non-existent when it comes to that second part of the oath, which then begs the question, to whom do they really have an allegiance? Are they even up for treason based on the activities they're engaging with this open border policy? And of course, just the abuse of these children is unfathomable what's going on right now.
Yeah, treason. That's a great point, Ann. Michael, when you talk about what's happening with these children and the travesty that's unfolding, you talked about where these children are being shipped to. They're being housed here. What is the facility then that's moving these children from these abandoned Walmarts to homes in New York and across the country? Who's doing this?
Well, for instance, a whistleblower who would probably go on your show. Actually, we can ask him today. He was one of the escorts for several years. His name is Carlos, and I think he would actually. And he was one of the escorts. They'll take him to McAllen Airport, which is just down the road from us here, or Harlingen Airport here in Texas, and they would fly them to like Jacksonville or Orlando Airport, as an example, and then they rent a car. Well, if their flights get delayed somewhere in between, they would get a hotel with no oversight whatsoever, staying in the same room. He was instructed they were to stay on the couch and the children would stay in the bed, up to 5 children. It could be up to 10, but in those cases, they would have 2 escorts. And at times, they would actually lose children at times, like gone. And nobody knows what happened to them. Oh, yeah. And then so they deliver them to homes, right? They deliver them to homes in affluent areas. I ask, and Ann and I asked, we must have interviewed him for 10 hours between the 2 days, right? And we said, do they deliver them to RV parks or to boat ramps or to trailer parks or what? And he said affluent homes. It was always affluent homes. Sometimes when they delivered, sometimes the sponsors or whatever they are, we don't know how that works, would pick them up at baggage claim at airports. Sometimes they would not show up at all. And the company warned the escorts never to bring the children back. It doesn't matter if the recipients of the children are drunk or high or angry. And many times Carlos would tell us that the children were fearful. They wanted to go back to their home countries and back to their parents, which begs the question, how did you get here? Of course, which we see in Darien Gap, and we see when I'm down in Mexico, we see children who clear. Ann and I saw on the border, 3 days ago, children, you're a mother, seeing children, the body language just didn't match with, I should let you talk on that.
Yeah, no, when you see young men, young adult males, chaperoning children by having their hands on the backs of their shoulders and steering the child into the bus that Customs and Border Protection has waiting for them, as facilitated by another company, ISS Action, partnering with Catholic Charities, which, by the way, is all over this down here in McAllen. We visited that facility, and we saw Customs and Border Protection agents really bro-hugging, glad-handing, high-fiving each other as the, quotes, merchandise, which is the illegals, mostly women and small children.
The executive director of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He joins us now. Robert, how can any member of the Biden administration who is responsible for this horrific border policy, who may themselves also be a parent, how can that person sleep at night knowing this is being done to children?
Good morning. It's horrifying. 150,000 minor illegal immigrant children that have disappeared into this country into what is a modern slavery ring being facilitated by the Biden administration's trafficking of these children across the country to individuals, as your article mentioned, who some are criminals, and nobody knows what's happening to these children. It's the Biden administration. Look, it's the co-chair of the Biden campaign, Texas Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, who represents El Paso, that may want to call home and inquire as to what's happening in her district with these migrant children that are being literally sold into slavery and human trafficking across the United States.
The video we were just watching there at the edge of that water, I believe that was a 1.5 or 2-year-old that was dropped off at the edge of that water right there circled, and a Border Patrol agent, thank God, runs to save that little child. So it's not only dangerous when they get here, but it's dangerous getting here. And I think that really speaks volume. Did you see the cartel member just run off? So when you see stuff like this, I mean, controversy just keeps piling up on this administration. And, regardless of the timing, no timing is good when you see stuff like this going on and you hear reports like this from whistleblowers. My question is, will the Biden administration ever start talking about it? Because I think Americans deserve to hear directly from the president about all of these controversies and these crises just piling up on them.
They deserve those answers. And this is the record that Joe Biden will have to run on as he has just recently reannounced his election for president. It's horrifying. It's awful. Awful is too mild a word to describe what happened to these children in the hands of the cartel members, in the hands of the traffickers, what it takes to get to this country, that one happens to them once they're literally just dumped off on the side of the United States and then delivered by these nonprofit NGOs to individuals who would not pass the normal kind of background checks that you would have for a typical child protective services type foster care relationship. I think the states need to step in, need to take control of these children and really make sure that where these nearly 750,000 children have been deposited into our country, we do our humanitarian duty to take care of them and to make sure that they are not abused and exploited.
The Biden administration has reportedly been unable to make contact with 85,000 of these children. Think about that for a moment. Meantime, you did mention the president launched his re-election bid yesterday. Here's what he did talk about in his first public remarks after that announcement.
Our economic plan is working. We now have to finish the job, but there's more to do. The threat the MAGA Republicans pose is to take us to a place we've never been. They'd rather see kids and seniors struggle to eat what they need. People on Medicaid lose their health care. Same old trickle down dressed up in MAGA clothing. Only worse.
Let's go to the beginning part of that statement. He said it's time to finish the job. Robert, if he does finish the job, can America recover?
It's an implicit threat. Finish the job of finishing off America. Joe Biden has announced his reelection effort. So let's talk about his record. Let's talk about during his presidency, we have record high inflation, that we have high energy prices, that we have this border crisis, that we have our international affairs in shambles as the United States relationship with China and Russia is all-time low. We've lost 2 embassies under this presidency. Let's talk about the fact that Joe Biden's cabinet is a disgrace, with the Department of Justice being corrupt and Homeland Security being inept. This is the record we should talk about, the performance of Joe Biden over the last 4 years. And it's going to be a lead weight around the neck of every Democrat running for re-election in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention his speech was yet again divisive. He's constantly using the term MAGA extremist, MAGA Republican, just throwing that out there, gaslighting Americans who may not like Donald Trump. But you got to remember, 50% of America essentially voted for Donald Trump. Meantime, let's turn to this. Dr. Anthony Fauci giving a fascinating interview to the New York Times about the pandemic, saying, quote, "Show me a school that I shut down and show me a factory that I shut down. Never. I never did. I gave a public health recommendation that echoed the CDC's recommendation, and people made a decision based on that." Any shock he is kind of just washing his hands and stepping away from this?
It's no surprise that Fauci and those that were responsible for the COVID pandemic lockdowns want to wash their hands and whitewash history that occurred here. But the blame falls squarely upon the so-called health professionals and bureaucrats that closed schools, closed churches, ruined lives, closed businesses. We have to remember as Americans what was done in the so-called name of science that has been dispelled, what we've learned about the truth about the misinformation that was being given by the government. And we have to guarantee that these kind of abuses that were led by Dr. Fauci never again happen to Americans or to our civil liberties.
He's never going to apologize. Robert Henneke, thank you so much.